As we salute another Veterans Day this 11/11, we also acknowledge the battle that many continue to fight on their own front. On the average, every day, 22 of our veterans and active duty military die in suicides.
Topeka's VA wants veterans to know they can find help. They've been on the front lines, some in combat, some not, but always surrounded by their fellow troops. The Topeka VA's head of suicide prevention, Dr. Stephanie Davis, says the loss of that indescribable camaraderie can put veterans at higher risk for suicide when they come home.
When they return and try to integrate back into a civilian world, there's absolutely no way to recreate that type of bond that they had. And so they end up feeling really isolated and alone.
Couple that with the traumatic brain injuries many of today's military members suffer that often go undiagnosed, but leave lasting impact on the area of the brain that controls impulses such as the desire to take one's own life.
In somebody with damage to that part of the brain, if they have the impulse to act on it, they may not be able to control that impulse, and so they act.
The VA wants veterans to know it has resources to help.
If you're having thoughts of suicide, press 7
Their
now.
main phone line now includes the number to a veterans crisis line. A flagging system alerts the mental health team when veterans at high risk for suicide enter a hospital. Davis says most veterans who call Topeka's VA seeking mental health care will get an appointment with a psychotherapist within 2 weeks. For more immediate needs, Topeka's VA has a walk-in mental health clinic weekdays. Emergent cases may go to the ER. People who miss appointments are contacted to find out why.
We're all here to serve veterans.
Case manager Marcy Belinsky says a key component for families is developing a safety plan. It identifies triggers for emotional and behavior changes, family, friends, and healthcare professionals to call, right down to how they handle weapons in the home. They'll even give you a free gun lock.
Because if we can slow them down for 5 minutes, they're probably not going to act on those thoughts.
But it's hard to stop something you aren't aware has started. If you notice a veteran feeling hopeless or isolated or talking about death or being a burden, speak up and be blunt.
A lot of times people are afraid to ask the question. They're afraid to ask somebody, are you thinking about killing yourself? And they think that if they ask that somehow is going to implant that idea in their head. And what we know is that that is absolutely not the case. If you are concerned about somebody, ask.
Kansas Senator Jerry Moran is among those calling on VAs to allow easier access to outside mental health services when there's a delay in getting an appointment. Topeka's VA, by the way, has the 4th fastest access to mental care on all VAs in the country. If you do need help, here is the number to call. It's the Veterans Crisis Line, 1-800-273-8255. I have a lot more resources listed right now for veterans and their families on WIBW.com. And tonight at 10, you'll hear some very personal, emotional stories of why winning this battle is so crucial. I hope you tune in to really put a face to this issue.
Right, an enormous issue, and with such a strong military community here in Northeast Kansas, a crucial issue for all of us here. So more on that at 10.
While we did spend a lot of time today celebrating our veterans for their service, you might not realize that many continue fighting a life and death battle with themselves. On average, each day, 22 active duty military and veterans take their own lives. Tonight, we hear from people battling to shine a light into the darkness.
So this is a picture of Alan with some of his friends.
Born into a military family, Alan Younger seemed destined to follow those footsteps.
He wanted to go out, he wanted to explore, he wanted to see more and experience more, and he used the Army as kind of an avenue for it.
He met his wife Amber when both were in training to become combat medics. Eventually, Amber left the military. The couple had a daughter, Mariska, got married, and Alan deployed to Iraq. Once home, he joined the National Guard and was accepted to the chemical engineering program at KU.
He was just really smart.
But Alan was hiding a secret.
He told his therapist that he struggled with depression in high school. He hid it from a lot of people. He didn't want his family or his friends to think less of him or to judge him for having a mental illness. But then there's also within the career of the Army. You have to be tough, you have to be strong, you can't show weakness.
On a 2-week break from deployment, 2 friends in Iraq were killed by an IED. He then had a close friend die by suicide. Amber says it sent Alan spiraling. He stopped therapy, stopped medications, and then it became too much.
It was August 12th, 2013.
Amber says Alan was argumentative that night. He stood in their bedroom doorway.
And He brought his hand around and I saw him holding the gun. I jumped off the bed and I ran at him. He didn't hesitate, he didn't stall. As I ran towards him, he put the gun up to his head, locked his eyes into mine, and pulled the trigger as I screamed no. And then he fell back.
David Keevers says his story nearly came to a similar ending.
Starting to just become an angry and violent type of person.
David entered the Marine Corps as an almost rebellious act, but found he thrived on the structure and detail. He deployed to Iraq, then Afghanistan, where he found himself in the battle for Marja.
It's only supposed to be a couple day type of deal, they say, be in and out, and it definitely wasn't like that whatsoever. None of us were prepared for it. We weren't supposed to be prepared for it, but we made the best that we could out of it and came out well, and from the grace of God is why as many as my men walked out as they did, including myself.
But 3 men did not. Once off active duty, David entered a vicious cycle trying to cope with what he'd seen in and out of treatment before finally finding the PTSD program at Topeka's VA, only to become discouraged at the wait to get in.
Decided, at that point in time, the only choice I had in life that I knew that I'd keep going was just to be homeless and live out on the street until I got help.
He finally came across the Military Veteran Project. They helped him get home, complete the paperwork to get into the PTSD program, and matched him with a battle buddy, Vietnam veteran Dennis.
Talked through a lot of stuff in life. It made me feel like I wasn't the only one. It showed me that I wasn't.
That support, David says, changed everything. He wants others who find themselves where he was and those who love them to know, don't give up.
People that experience the PTSD, we don't even understand it. I just say stick in there, continue to put forth the effort to get help, and I promise that it will have a light at the end of the tunnel.
A light that's needed to keep others from suffering in silence.
It's easier to say my loved one is mentally ill or my soldier is mentally ill. It's so much easier to do that than to bury them. And once that cloak is taken away and the hushed tones and the stigma, it's going to make getting help so much easier.
The VA has launched Operation SAVE. Remember these letters: spot the signs, ask the question, do you want to take your life? Validate what the veteran is feeling, and encourage treatment and expedite getting help, SAVE. And again, if you do need help, the Veterans Crisis Line is 1-800-273-8255. You can hear from the suicide prevention staff at Topeka's VA and find further resources on WIBW.com. Ralph, the veterans want you to know that there is help out there, not to give up. And the VA wants veterans to know there are resources. There is help. They are there. They want to see people.
That support to lift them up and keep them here with us. Melissa, thank you for that. It is a topic that people and families don't like to talk about. The numbers, though, they're really stunning and they're eye-opening.
In Kansas, suicide is the second leading cause of death, behind only accidents, for people ages 15 to 44, taking more lives than heart disease or cancer. Tonight, 2 families share their personal pain in hopes of saving lives. Jordan Walker was 15 years old.
He had a passion for outside, fishing and hunting.
He always wanted to go on an adventure. He always wanted to do something fun.
Lauren Rosso was 16.
She was funny and sassy.
She was just so kind. She always loved the underdog.
Their families saw their struggles.
While he was making everybody else happy, he was dying inside.
But the rest of the world saw something else.
She was always happy and smiling with her friends.
I don't think we ever really realized how bad it was.
Her parents spent years with counseling and medications, but November 8th, 2012, Lauren ran from a residential treatment facility to a bridge over I-470 and jumped.
It's really hard to watch your child suffering so much and you can't do anything to help them. Or you think you're doing everything and nothing is helping them.
This past January, Jordan was visiting his grandmother in Nebraska and took his own life.
I never expected my brother not to come home. I wasn't there to take him and protect him, to let him know, hey, those demons are gone. They're not going to be there, son. We're here.
Jordan and Lauren are just two of the faces of what some call an epidemic, lives lost too soon to suicide. Kansas saw 454 deaths by suicide in 2014, up from 426 in 2013. This year, through August, Shawnee County recorded 31 deaths by suicide, already surpassing last year's total of 24.
Just because somebody's smiling does not mean they're not depressed.
Sally Ann Schneider of Stormont Vale West says the numbers are a wake-up call that mental health must be a fundamental part of healthcare discussions. It's especially crucial with young people. Dr. Eric Vogt says the part of their brain that helps cope isn't yet fully developed, and drugs or alcohol can make the situation worse.
When these stresses hit kids, it's all magnified a lot. So they don't have a lot of the normal responses that adults might to sort of push back from those things.
For parents, look for signs of depression, loss of interest in friends or activities, or sleeping a lot. If you're concerned, speak up.
I think you start with very direct and basic questions because it's better to be safe than sorry.
Jordan's family says they wish they'd asked more.
The signs were all there. We just didn't know them very well.
Now they and Lauren's family are left with memories and a mission.
People being hush-hush about it doesn't make it go away.
Using their darkest moment to shine a light.
Your life matters. There is help. You are important. It's okay to tell them that you're feeling sad and that you want help. Don't give up. There's hope. Both the Kinneys and the Lessers are involved in suicide prevention efforts. While it was not a direct factor in their situations, both do tell me that bullying plays an important role in this issue these days and needs to be addressed. Another challenge, finding options for mental health care. A spokesperson for the Department of Aging and Disability Services says the state has added beds for inpatient care in recent years, but is still working to find ways to meet demand for services. Here are some important numbers to start. If you or someone you love needs help, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, or you can text the word START to the crisis line at 741-741. I'll get all those resources up for you on WIBW.com, and you can hear more of Jordan's and Lauren's stories as well.
Melissa and I were chatting, and you said something interesting. The smiling pictures on Facebook are not a window to the pain, and we hope those families can really get through to find out what may be wrong.
Talk to your kids,
right.
Find things out.